Hi everyone, this is me, Andrea from Andy's Corner, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. Now today's video might be a little bit longer because we're actually going to do two stories in one because they're basically related and we might as well. So, last video we ended off where Jacob is running away from Laban. Yes, he's running away again. And that's where we left off, okay? So now we're in the same chapter, chapter 31 of Genesis, and Laban notices he's missing probably about 20 plus people. So 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he gathered a group of his relatives and set out in hot pursuit. I thought this was kind of funny, hot pursuit. That was like, why would that be in the Bible? That's so funny. It's like a desperate pursuit, like a speeding car that's trying to run away from the police. That shows you the desperation of Laban. He's desperate to find Jacob and the girls and his grandkids. He caught up with Jacob 7 days later in the hill country of Gilead. But the previous night, God had appeared to Laban, the Aramean, in a dream and told him, "I'm warning you, leave Jacob alone." Thank the Lord. Laban caught up with Jacob as he was camped in the hill country of Gilead, and he set up his camp not far from Jacob's. "What do you mean by deceiving me like this?" Laban demanded. "How dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Why did you slip away secretly? Why did you deceive me? And why didn't you say you wanted to leave? I would have given you a farewell feast with singing and music accompanied by tambourines and harps. Why didn't you let me kiss my daughters and grandchildren and tell them goodbye? You have acted very foolishly. I could destroy you. But the God of your father appeared to me last night and warned me, 'Leave Jacob alone.' I can understand your feeling that you must go and your intense longing for your father's home, but why have you stolen my gods?" Now, there's a few things that stick out to me here. One, I like how when Jacob spoke to his wife, they eagerly were like, "Yeah, whatever God tells you to do, you must do it." But here, Laban describes, you dragged them away like prisoners of war, like they were kicking and screaming because they wanted to leave their family. When actually the girl said, "Laban, our dad treats us like we're foreigners. We're not even like his daughters anymore." And then I also thought it was very interesting that Laban knew it was God, Yahweh, who appeared to him and not just some random person. I wonder how he knew that. So, and he notices the household gods are gone. "I rushed away because I was afraid," Jacob answered. "I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. But as for your gods, see if you can find them and let the person who has taken them die. And if you find anything else that belongs to you, identify it before all these relatives of ours and I will give it back." So Jacob is clearly not trying to steal household gods. But we know his wife is. But Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the household idols. Laban went first into Jacob's tent to search there, then into Leah's, and then to the tents of the two servant wives, but he found nothing. Finally, he went into Rachel's tent, but Rachel had taken the household idols and hidden them in her camel saddle, and now she was sitting on them. When Laban had thoroughly searched her tent without finding them, she said to her father, "Please, sir, forgive me if I don't get up for you. I'm having my monthly cycle." So Laban continued his search, but he could not find the household idols. Then Jacob became very angry, and he challenged Laban. "What's my crime?" he demanded. "What have I done wrong to make you chase after me as though I were a criminal? You have rummaged through everything I own. Now show me what you have found. that belongs to you. Set it out here in front of us, before our relatives, for all to see. Let them be the judge between us tonight. For 20 years I have been with you, caring for your flocks, and all that time your sheep and goats never miscarried. In all those years I never used a single ram of yours for food. If any were attacked and killed by wild animals, I never showed you the carcass and asked you to reduce the count of your flock. No, I took the loss myself. You made me pay for every stolen animal, whether it was taken in broad daylight or in the dark of night. I worked for you through the scorching of the day and through the cold and sleepless nights. Yes, for 20 years I slaved in your house. I worked for 14 years earning your 2 daughters, and then 6 more years for your flock. And you changed my wages 10 times. In fact, if the God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham and the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen your abuse and my hard work. That is why he has appeared to you last night and rebuked you. Now, Jacob goes into detail here about all the things that Laban has done against him. And I believe the integrity that Jacob had in caring for Laban's flock. Sheep and flock equals shock. Just kidding. So I thought that was very interesting. And God does see our hard work. And I agree with Jacob that Laban probably would have taken advantage of him if he had told him he was leaving. He probably would have made his wife stay there and possibly even tried to take his children, which is not okay. Jacob, like he said, has worked so hard for Laban, and Laban kept trying to move things. He changed his wages 10 times. That's every 2 years he got a different wage change. That's crazy. Well, then after he goes into detail about all this, Laban kind of realizes, okay, I wasn't really chasing you. Let's just back up here. Let's see what he says. Then Laban replied to Jacob, these women are my daughters, and these children are my grandchildren, and these flocks are my flocks. In fact, everything you see is mine. Wow, that's pretty bold, even though they already discussed in the previous chapter how anything that is speckled, striped, and spotted will belong to Jacob, and they made that agreement very loud and clear. But no, now Laban says, no, everything you see belongs to me. A little greedy much? No, Laban. Then he says, but what can I do now about my daughters and their children? So come, let's make a covenant, you and I, and it will be a witness to our commitment. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument. Then he told his family members, gather some stones. So they gathered stones and piled them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat down beside the pile of stones to eat a covenant meal. To commemorate the event, Laban called the place Jegar Sahadutha, which means witness pile in Aramaic. And Jacob called it Gilead, which means witness pile in Hebrew. Then Laban declared, this pile of stones will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we have made today. This explains why it is called Gilead, witness pile, but it was also called Mizpah, which means watchtower. For Laban said, may the Lord keep watch between us to make sure that we keep this covenant when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters or if you marry other wives, God will see it, even if no one else does. And he is a witness to this covenant between us. He's kind of threatening Jacob, like, God is going to be watching you. I would say the same to Laban. Hello, God has been watching you these last 20 years. See this pile of stones, Laban continued, and see this monument I have set between us. They stand between us as a witness of our vows. I will never pass this pile of stones to harm you, and you must never pass these stones of this monument to harm me. I call on the God of our ancestors, the God of your grandfather Abram, Abraham and the God of my grandfather Nahor to serve as a judge between us. So Jacob took an oath before the fearsome God of his father Isaac to respect the boundary line. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to God there on the mountain and invited everyone to a covenant feast. After they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up early the next morning, and he kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. As Jacob started on his way again, angels of God came to meet him. When Jacob saw them, he exclaimed, "This is God's camp." So he named the place Mahanaim. And that's the end. So that story's kind of crazy. It's like starts out as a hot pursuit. Laban is mad and angry at Jacob, saying, "Why did you do this? You're so deceitful, blah, 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 blah." And then Jacob's like, "Oh, really? You did, sorry, you did this, and this. And Laban's like, "Oh, well, okay, sorry. Let's make a commitment here not to hurt each other." It seems as though Laban clearly realized that he was in the wrong, and Jacob was trying to get away just to get away safely and to start his own life and work for himself instead of working 20 of his good years to Laban. And he wanted to earn his own money. He had been working really hard, and I think he deserved it. But what does this tell us about God? I find a few things that are really exciting. One, God led Jacob, and as we read last episode, he appeared to Jacob. But maybe even sometimes God can appear to people, it seems as though, don't even follow him, because Laban had household idols that he was fighting and desperate to get back. But God still appeared to him to warn him. What does that say? That says that God has a plan and no one can mess up that plan. Yes, we do stupid things. We make mistakes. I think Jacob made many mistakes over his life with the marrying multiple women and stealing his brother's blessing. And I think Laban made a lot of mistakes, but God still appeared to both of them. God still chooses imperfect people to carry out his perfect plan. And that's what stuck out to me in these episodes or in these stories. What else? I don't know. I'd like to hear from you. What stuck out to you? And I also liked how Joseph is more and more understanding God in his life and acknowledging him. God has blessed me with this flock and this family. God is in this camp when the angels appeared to him. I think he is more and more understanding and getting it that God is actually his God and he deserves to devote his life and his children and his wife to God. And I think when we do that and when we obey, God will guide us. And that, my friends, is what I found encouraging, is that God uses imperfect people to carry out his perfect plan. So that means he can use me, even though I make mistakes. He can use you, even though you make mistakes. But when we submit to the Lord, he still desires a relationship with us. He still wants to talk to us. And who knows? Maybe we'll meet him in a dream. All right, see you next time. Next time, Jacob is returning home to his brother. Dun, dun, dun. What will happen? All right, bye.